Thank you. Please note that on your tables are blank index cards and some pencils. You are welcome to write down any questions you may wish of the speakers, and they will be answered towards the end of the presentation as time allows. Please hold any questions, cards up high, and the chamber staff will come around and collect them. At this point, I'd like to invite our newly named Chamber Vice President, Stephanie Aldridge, to introduce our panel of speakers.
Hello everyone, welcome. We're so excited about today. We hope that you guys are ready to just hear from this elect set of panels. They have a lot of great things that they want to say. So I'm just gonna start, put my glasses on. So we're gonna introduce Kevin Bogard. Kevin, you can go ahead and come up on stage. Kevin serves as Vice President of Refining at the Galveston Bay Refinery for Marathon Petroleum Company. Kevin has been with Marathon for over 30 years and has held a variety of positions throughout the company. He joined Marathon in 1990 and most recently served as General Manager of the Robinson's Refinery located in Southern Illinois. His career started in process engineering, then into controls engineering, and ultimately production planning before migrating to management. Kevin has held management positions and increasing responsibilities at 5 of the Marathon Refinery sites before joining the team at the Galveston Bay Refinery. He graduated from Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology with a degree in chemical engineering. He completed executive management programs at Rice University and Stanford. He has been married to his wife Dodie for 33 years and they have 3 kids and 3 grandchildren. Let's give him a round of applause. So next we're going to bring to the stage Jim Brumley. Jim is General Manager of Operations for Advario and has over 28 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. He has directed O&M engineering, logistics, HSSE, and major project development for many major operations over the course of his career. He has a degree in engineering technology and is a certified member with NACE International as a corrosion specialist. Originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, where he started his career with Duke Energy in 1994. In 2010, Jim moved to Houston with Phillips 66 in various midstream refining roles. He has 4 children and a wife who retired over 22 years as an Army nurse, who is currently serving our veterans at the Houston VA. That's amazing. Let's give him a round of applause. Oh, I forgot one. They love riding and enjoy riding motorcycles for leisure and support local Texas City American Legion. Sorry about that. The next one is Andrew Connolly. Andrew has 30 years with Air Products. Andrew has progressed through a variety of roles in plant maintenance, engineering, and operations in both Europe and the Americas. He joined Air Products in 1991 and the company's graduate development program based in the United Kingdom and Europe. His earliest assignments for Air Products were in Holland, and then he moved to California as Western American's maintenance manager, and later to the Houston region, where he's had responsibilities for plant operations, distribution, and Gulf Coast pipeline operations based in LaPorte. Andrew has been active of the community, serving on the LaPorte Education Foundation Board of Directors, the LaPorte Plant Managers Network, and the Citizens Advisory Council. He is currently Executive Director and General Manager for non-traditional assets in the Americas. That includes the world's largest single-train ammonia plant and biofuels hydro test treating facility. He is a graduate of Southampton University with a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Mechanical Engineering. Let's give him a round of applause. Next to the stage, we have Mike Meyer. Mike is site manager at Ashland in Texas City. He has over 22 years of experience in specialty chemicals with roles in operations, engineering, and continuous improvement as a 6 Sigma black belt. Mike earned his degree in chemical engineering from the University of Cincinnati in 1999. He is currently serving on the executive board of the Texas City-La Marque Chamber of Commerce. Let's give him a round of applause. Next up, we have Corey Moss. Corey joined Valero in 2001 and has served as the Vice President and General Manager of the Texas City Refinery since January 2020. During his nearly 30 years in the refining industry, his experience included roles in planning and economics, mergers and acquisitions, and operations technical and maintenance management. Corey also served in the Army National Guard and is a veteran of Operation Desert Storm. He is a native of Abbeville, Louisiana, and graduated from Louisiana State with a degree in chemical engineering. Corey and his wife, Jody, have 3 children. He gives back to the community through service on the board of the Bay Area Boy Scouts, the United Way Galveston County Mainland, and the Texas City-La Marque Chamber. He spends his leisure time saltwater fishing in the Moses Lake area and hunting in the Texas Hill Country. Give him a round of applause. Next, we have Andy Venables. Andy is the site manager of Eastman, Texas City, and responsible for safety, regulatory compliance, quality systems, asset maintenance and improvement, manufacturing, overall employee development, and well-being and community and city engagement. That was a mouthful. Andy is originally from the Houston area and has his degree in chemical engineering from Texas A&M University. He has worked in the engineering and chemical industry for almost 20 years. He has been with Eastman for the past 12 years and has been located in Texas City the last 4. Andy is on the board of directors for the Chamber and of the United Way. He and his wife, Addie, have 4 children. He enjoys fishing, hunting, golf, and attending his children's activities. Let's give him a round of applause. And now allow me to introduce our host and interviewer for today's program, Kathy Thomas. Kathy is a lifelong Houston Galveston resident and owner of Community Strategies, LLC. Her communications consulting firm has served a wide range of clients, including BP, Shell, the University of Texas Medical Branch, and the Galveston Wharfs, Next Decade, Air Products, and Gulf Coast Ammonia, to name a few. Kathy earned a journalism degree from the University of Texas at Austin and worked as managing editor of the Galveston County Daily News before starting her company. She's the proud mother of 2 sons, both officers in the U.S. Armed Forces. Thank you for leading today, Kathy. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the Chamber for hosting and for our esteemed panel of plant managers. So we've got a lot to cover. Let's just dive right in. So one of the first things we'd like to start with are updates from your facilities. And I know, Andrew, with Gulf Coast Ammonia Air Products, you've got some big updates. Would you like to start off? And I think you've got a short slide deck.
Yes, certainly. So what I'd like to do is just give an update where we are. Those of you who've driven down 2nd Street, you can really see the skyline changing. It's changing very rapidly, and it has in the last couple of months. And what we wanted to do is just kind of give an update where we are and give you an idea of what's going to happen over the next year. So in terms of the project benefits, I'll use this to kind of talk about just where we are today. We came up with this about a year ago to give people an idea of how the project benefits Texas City. And I just want to use this to kind of circle back and show where we are now. So if you go back one slide, please. So in terms of the permanent jobs, we're about halfway through our staffing strategy. We have about 20 staff positions now fully filled, and we're just actually now gearing up for our next staffing wave. And we'll actually probably be a little higher than 40. So I think we're currently targeting around 50 staff positions. All those positions will be in place probably around October, November. So we've done relatively well there. We have met our tax abatement obligations, which we signed up to. So of that population, probably about 95% either live in Texas City or they live in Galveston County. Construction jobs, we are not quite at the peak. I think we're about 600 or 700 people on site today, and we are just about to now start to ramp that up to about 1,000 or so. That'll happen, I think, within the next 1 to 2 months, and we'll probably be at that peak of around 1,000 people until the end of the year. Community, we've worked very hard to date with the city. The city have been very, very helpful in terms of helping us manage what it's take to build this facility. And I'll touch on that, some of that later on, as we talk about our construction strategy, how we modularize the site, and what that meant from a transportation point of view of bringing all the equipment in. And in the final corner, as part of this project, we have run a hydrogen pipeline down to Texas City. That comes from Air Products' Gulf Coast Hydrogen Pipeline Network, and that pipeline will actually come into service within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So if anyone wants any hydrogen, I can probably do you a blue light special. You know, I can give you a friend's rate probably until the end of the year. Next slide. So kind of where are we now? In terms of the hydrogen pipeline, that's in commissioning today. That will be in service early August, and we'll have that part of the project completed. Of the main site, which is what you see being built on 2nd Street, the utilities, they'll actually go into startup starting in the fall. And the goal is by the end of the year, all the utilities will be in service. The water, the air, everything you need for the plant to function. The feedstock facilities, which is what really supplies the ammonia plant, they will actually go up into startup just around Christmas or early in the new year. That's where we'll actually start running process operating units. The ammonia plant, that will probably be maybe sometime in the spring to late spring. And once we've commissioned the feedstock facilities, we'll then go into the ammonia plant startup. The ammonia tank, which is down at Vario, we'll probably switch that over to ammonia and do an initial fill sometime early in the new year. So all of this is currently heading towards the whole facility being in service sometime late spring, early summer. So we've had some challenges, and I'll talk about those in the next slide. So kind of 3 challenges we've had to face that are not of our own making. We've obviously had some challenges of our own making, but there are some things you can't control. When we started the build, we were in the middle of COVID. We were dealing with separations, masking, and that was a real challenge to build a large industrial facility within the COVID restriction requirements. The follow-on from that is the shipping and supply chain challenges. So the whole, as you know, if you buy things yourself at home, the whole supply chain, particularly from Asia and other places, has caused some enormous challenges. And things that I think we as industry took for granted, structural steel, pipe, and instrumentation that used to be off the shelf, we're now seeing 8, 10, 20-week lead times. So we have had a real challenge to overcome the shipping. And I think the shipping industry in general, we are seeing an increase in shipping costs of about 3 to 4 times pre-COVID, and very, very long durations associated with moving goods. The final one, unbelievably, the Russian-Ukraine conflict caused us some problems. We had some equipment that was built in Europe. We think that's going to be okay. It's waiting to load on a ship, and the ship happened to be a Russian-registered ship, and then, of course, the port refuses to load the ship, the port refuses to fuel the ship, and now we have a piece of equipment that's stuck on the docks. You now have supply chain problems, so now in order to find a non-Russian affiliated boat comes with its challenges. So despite these headwinds, we're there or thereabouts. We will probably be, I think our initial plan was to be up and running in the new year before spring. That's probably slipped a little bit now to spring to summer. But I think we've weathered these challenges fairly well. and we will see where we end up. What I'd like to do here is just show you a few slides of the progress, because things have changed very, very quickly along 2nd Street in a very short period of time. And one of that is the strategies we employ. So when we typically build a plant, we will modularize everything we can. So even a pipe rack, we will build elsewhere. We cut the pipe rack into segments, and they all come to site in modules. So what it means is less work in the field, less stick building of the plant, and more just assembling these big Lego bricks. So this was February. There's a few bits and pieces there, but we're still kind of wallowing around in the mud, putting the foundations in. So next slide. So here you go. This is 2 months later, and you now suddenly start to see a significant amount of equipment. All of that came in modules and then directly lifted into a place, and it allows for a very, very quick build. So one more slide. So this is June today. So from February to June, in 3 to 4 months, because of the modularization strategy, we've been able to assemble and build a significant portion of the plant very, very quickly. We had, to give you some idea, we had about 95 separate modules. Those modules were built in various places globally. We shipped them in, and then we literally connect those modules together. So if you see, there's a long pipe rack that runs side to side. That pipe rack is close to about 12 different modules. And basically you put the module in, and then it should perfectly align with the pipe rack next door, and you bolt the modules together. So it gives us real benefits. It does cause some problems, and I would like to say thank you to Texas City, and in particular John Branson and his team. We've had 80 modules to move from Nunez Dock and up in Dickinson. It's caused a significant amount of work and disruption. Hopefully it's been relatively seamless to people, but that really would not have been able to happen without a lot of work from John Branson and the Texas City team. So that's where we are today. That's the skyline you see today. We're now going to man up, and what we really get into now is the stick-built activities, the field work, the stuff that just can't be done off-site and needs to be done in the site. So that was it.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Very good. And Kevin, Marathon's got a lot of work going on. Can you give us an update there?
Absolutely. Very excited to give you an update on our project. First of all, I want to thank this community, excuse me, because over the past almost 10 years, when Marathon bought the facility and has combined these two plants together, we started the evolution of this project. And over those 10 years, I know we have impacted you by closing the loop down and moving modules in, as Andrew talked about, and your tolerance and your patience to work with this has been outstanding. But in a nutshell, our project is completing next year, almost 10 years later. $1.6 billion will have been spent at this facility, and we call it our STAR project. In rough numbers, about a third of that, so about $500 million, has been put in service already in the plant. We have spent to date more than $1 billion on the project, and next spring, when we complete our staff up and outage, we will have spent the last $500 million and bring the equipment online. What does that mean to the community, and what's next for you to see? We were staffed up. We've seen staffing in our contractor ranks in the 6,000 to 7,000 contractors a day. COVID hit, impacted us just like Andrew, and we got way down. Now we're currently 2,000 to 3,000 contractors a day on site, and we are ramping up as we speak. By the end of the year, will be about 5,000 on the project. And next early January, we'll be about 7,000, 8,000 contractors a day in that plant for our outage we call it the spring, but it's January. When we complete, this project will be online, and it will nominally add some capacity to the Galveston Bay Refinery. More importantly, it will give us more upgrading capacity. So about 15,000 barrels a day of asphalt, we will be taking an extra 15,000 barrels a day of asphalt and converting it to motor fuels at the end of this project. So it's an exciting project. It's been 10 years in the making, and I'm glad to see the horizon at the end, and we'll complete it next spring.
Thanks, that's really exciting, Kevin, thanks. So before we move on to the next topic, which is hiring challenges in today's environment, does anybody have any other projects they want to talk about? Nope, all right. So let's go on to another big topic. Employers are facing a lot of hiring and retention challenges in the U.S. today. What are you guys experiencing, and how are you addressing those challenges? Jim, you want to lead off?
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, so I'm not a rearview mirror kind of guy. I don't like to look back, but unfortunately with, I think some of the hiring challenges we're all facing, employment, attrition, et cetera, we kind of got to look back at what COVID truly did to a lot of our industries. And I tell you, I'm the first that really wants that word to go away as quickly as possible, but it seems to just keep popping back up. So, just kind of looking back, about 60% of the jobs that were lost during COVID have been, brought back. We're about 40% shy. Most of us are seeing somewhere between 20 and 30% attrition. COVID has really kind of changed the landscape, if you will, of how we employ people, our work schedules, how we work, the types of folks that we're hiring. There's people that are changing careers. They've gotten very used to the schedules that during lockdown, and it really has put a lot of pressures on the companies to accommodate and kind of change the traditional ways of thinking with regards to how we schedule and how we employ. We see it in just about any, all aspects and walks, but it really has impacted the plants because it's really tough for a lot of us to put those flex schedules in. So what are we doing? We're really we're thinking outside the box. We really have been challenged with thinking of ways where we can incorporate flex schedules, incorporate different initiatives and things to really kind of just attract, new employment. We're really working with our folks here locally to incentivize them to stay, keep them excited about being in this industry. This industry's taken a lot of hits here recently, and it's really, really good to try to have a healthy promotion of what we do every day and what it really does benefit for us. Did a little statistics, looked at, even our generational differences is really a big impact as well. I mean, you look at our Gen Z class and about, those folks are only staying at a company for about 2.5 years. So, 4 and 5 year vested benefits don't really mean a lot to those folks. So really got to take into account a lot of the generational differences, a lot of generational challenges. And then lastly, working with the community to help them get educated on what we have as far as availability and jobs that are available, and really try to partner with our leadership here in the community to understand what we can do to help support them and them support us with good quality candidates so we can keep it all in-house here in the Texas City area. Corey, do you have anything to add?
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Jim talked about what can the community do for us. He said the industry has taken a lot of hits. There's a lot of negative headwinds against. Everybody kind of gets lumped into the big industry, big oil, big fossil fuels, right? And right now there's a lot of negative press out there, both nationally and even locally to some extent. And what that's doing is there's a generation that has heard that, and people aren't coming into the industry. So I just want to share a little bit about what we have to offer. One, we make products that make our lives better, right? Transportation fuels, plastics, all of the things that make our lives better. You look around this building, you look around your house, everything comes from the people that sit in front of you right here and the products that we make. And with that comes great jobs. So I'm going to give some statistics around, what the rates are out there and what we pay. And, we just need to get that message out to the community and young people that they understand what's across that fence line. Entry-level positions start somewhere between $30 and $40 an hour, right? That's operators and or skilled craftsmen. And they top out somewhere in the $40 to $50 an hour. What is that on an annual basis? They're starting out at $60,000 to $70,000 a year, with overtime and top out pay there $120,000 to $150,000 potentially, right? So these are good paying jobs that people can make a good livelihood with great benefits. And we just need to get the message out there to everyone, whether it's in with Dr. Duarte and partnering with the school district, or Dr. Nichols and getting to COM and trying to incentivize more people going into the skilled labor and the P-TECH programs. We're up here needing, as the baby boomers have retired, COVID has accelerated retirements with the baby boomers. Many of them have chosen to leave the workforce, so a lot of experience has moved out our workforce. So we have great opportunities, big opportunities in the business.
Thanks, Corey. I'd like to hear from some of the other guys up here about what you're facing.
Yeah, I'll maybe jump in here a little bit. We're experiencing the same things basically that Jim and Corey mentioned with COVID. We hate to kind of talk about it too, but COVID, with that, we had a lot of employees that were kind of on the edge of retirement. Well, with that, they said, well, I'm going to go ahead and retire. And then you also have the great resignation or the great reorganization, as people are calling it. And we're seeing, our industry is not immune to that. So we have a lot of openings because of that. We've had people decide to go out and start their own business, go pursue other opportunities, different career paths altogether. And then there's retirement. So that wave is kind of rippling through our plant right now with a lot of jobs that we're having to backfill. And on the Ashland team here knows that challenge of all the interviewing and stuff that we're doing with that. But to add to what Corey was saying, I think in this area, in the Gulf Coast, for probably some years to come, there's going to be a lot of good high-paying jobs in this industry, whether it's technical jobs or talking, about a need. I know we've talked a lot about a need for a lot of trades, so your I&E, your pipe fitters, machinist, and that sort of stuff. So we got to get the message out to people, not only that there's high-paying jobs, but you don't have to go to get a 4-year degree necessarily to do that. There's a lot of great high-paying jobs in the trades that all these plants and all these expansions that you're seeing around here are going to need to support.
So if I reflect on a journey of trying to staff the GCA facility, if I look at the people we've hired, our focus has actually been bringing people in under 30. We've really had very limited success of bringing what I call the mid-career people in, certainly as operators. They've got jobs, they've got seniority, they're very well established in whatever companies they are. I think the tack that we have taken is to bring in people straight out of P-TECH, straight out of the military, Navy nukes, reactor operators, bring in that pool, and our focus is actually then on training. And I think we've probably got some advantages. The plant we have here, the hydrogen plant, we have 40 of them globally. We have standardized training, we have simulators where we can put someone and they can simulate operating the plant, we can simulate upsets. So we probably got a slightly different ability to bring in at the very younger end of the workforce. We've had some problems, but I'd say they haven't been insurmountable at this point. And I know with some of the older facilities, most of the refineries, everything's custom. The ability to truly leverage across other sites, it just becomes a little bit harder.
I have one thing. There's been a couple points made about P P-TECH, and I want to make sure the group knows what P-TECH is. P-TECH is a college program. The College of the Mainland has a wonderful program here. It's process technology. It's basically, if you want to become a process operator in any of our plants, it is a great way to get some training, some skills to get your foot in the door. And 4 years ago when I arrived here, the College of the Mainlands has a P-TECH program, and we were reviewing numbers. And Marathon was not hiring very many people from that P-TECH program. I know Dr. Nichols is in the audience. I know Lisa Watson is in the audience. We've really partnered with them, and they've been receptive to partnering with us to turn that program into something that's more conducive to us. Marathon's currently in the process of onboarding about 40 new operators, and I don't know the exact number, but by polling them verbally in the last couple of weeks and meeting our new operators, over 30% of them have come from the COM program. So it's a great facility here we have right here in our community to get people ready for these jobs that are being talked about.
Thank you. Andy, anything to add? All right, thank you. So, environmental compliance is something you guys all are focused on every single day. How are environmental regulations, have they made the industry better stewards? Kevin?
So the one thing I want this community to know today is whether you think the environmental regulations are a headwind against us or a tailwind that helps us. And we've had some good debate on this stage about which one of those things it is. I want to emphasize in particular what Marathon does, and I know my partners up here on this stage do the same thing. We don't just take a regulation and follow it to the line. We always go above and beyond to make sure we're on the good side of compliance. We never want to be skirting that line where it's questionable. I'm going to give you an example today because there's been some press lately about fence line monitoring of refineries. Today, every one of us have tanks. And the regulation for emissions from tanks is you can have zero visible emissions. The human eye cannot see any emissions. And I want this community to know that's not good enough for most of us up here. We've introduced FLIR cameras and IGS cameras that see well below detection limits the human eye ever see. And they fly with drones over our plants routinely, and are looking for that small thing that you can't see yet, that's not anywhere near the regulatory requirement. And we're addressing those proactively ahead of time, because we never want to be on the line. We want to be ahead of the regulatory requirements and protect our neighbors.
I'm going to jump in there with Kevin. Actually, just last week, I think, Kevin's group was out looking at his facility. And while he was looking at his facility with one of these FLIR cameras, they saw one of our tanks with some emissions, and they let us know. So I think we want everyone to know that this group of plant managers here, and we'll talk a little bit about this later in our session. And we worked together, right? Their team called our team. We were able to go out there, look at it, address the issue, right? So it's a partnership in industry in this area. To Kevin's point, you go above and beyond. I'm going to quote some numbers from our facility. His is probably 3 or 4 times this, right? We monitor over 250,000 points throughout our facility for minute physical, fugitive emissions, volatile organic carbons, right? They're going up there and looking for ppm and ppb levels of material coming out our pipes. And if we find it, we have a timeline to go address that in a very short period of time. Talked about the fence line monitoring. We have 26 fence line monitors around Valero. I think he has probably twice that or more that's looking for benzene. Unique to this community, there are partners up here. We pay for some community monitors out there. And they also, I believe the city also has some community monitors. That's unique to this area. So I just want to reassure the community that we are good stewards. Regulations have forced us to be that way, right? I mean, you people that have lived in this area and lived in industry areas for your whole life have seen how much we've cleaned things up. But at the same time, he says we go above and beyond. The technology is improving. every year, and we are leveraging that technology to make sure that we are good stewards for the air, for the water. You know, flare gas recovery units, I mean, used to, you flared everything out. Now we recover that and we're able to use it back in our processes and burn it in our geyser. That also makes us more efficient from an energy standpoint. We just want to share those kinds of details. I think last year I mentioned this, and I like to tell this. We also have a regulation that oversees, at least for the refineries, where we essentially, it's like driving down the street and you exceed the speed limit. If you exceed the speed limit, you got to call in and tell them you exceeded the speed limit, right? It's called Title V violations. And so we have to send those exceedances in, and then they send us the ticket in the mail, right? But essentially that's how it worked. We self-police ourselves. That's the way the programs are set up. I think you can be confident. I live right here in Moses Lake. I said it in my bio, I love being in the outdoors. I love the water, the air, doing those types of things. So, I value where I live and want the community and the environment to be here for the generations to come.
Something too. Environmental regs are increasing, but along with safety, environmental compliance is our right to operate our facilities in our community, and that's very important. And I can confidently say that our waterways are cleaner and our air pollution is less. And Corey referenced this, but one way we know this is through the Texas City Air Monitoring Network. We review that data as a group every year, and it's been steady decline for the last 10 years. So that's very encouraging to see, and we take these environmental regulations very serious, and as previously mentioned, it's the baseline. We strive to excel and exceed those baseline requirements.
Thank you. Andrew, I'm curious, as one of the first brand new facilities in Texas City in some time, how has the permitting process gone for you?
I think for us, it's actually been relatively straightforward. Air Products has a very large presence in Texas along the Gulf Coast. We have 20 hydrogen plants. All those hydrogen plants have air permits. So we have a very, very good relationship with the TCEQ. They understand how our plants work. We have a very, very good understanding of not just what they are looking for today, but where regulation is heading. And as we design and as we work with them to get our air permits, it's both with us and the TCEQ that we are making sure those permits are not just for where we are today, but they often include things of where the TCEQ intends to move certain emission limits to. So I think it's been relatively straightforward for us, the permitting process on the air and water. Anyone here from the Royal Corps of Engineers? Probably a little bit more challenging, but back to the environmental. I think all of us here have very good relationships with the regulators. We have those because we're environmentally responsible. And we act as a group. And to a certain extent, we actually police each other. It does none of us any good if one of us is not behaving responsibly, because then we all get viewed the same. And I think we have the Texas City Plant Managers Network, and we use that as a forum for us as a community to stay aligned, understand kind of what we're doing, and collectively hold ourselves responsible.
Thanks. That leads into our next topic. I was going to ask Andy, since he's the chairman of it, that some folks may not know that there's a plant managers network, and all of these gentlemen are in that network. So Andy, you want to tell us about that?
Certainly. So I'm currently, the coordinator of this network, but there's about 15 or 16 of us in the Texas City area, and we meet almost monthly at the offices of the Port of Texas City. And, we talk about a number of things. Electrical reliability has been on a hot topic of discussion. I see TNMP here today, so thank you for keeping our lights on and our ACs running. But other topics include emergency response, hurricane preparedness, large turnarounds or projects, and a number of things. But it's also important to us, we start off every meeting talking about safety. We are all competitors in business, different refiners, different chemical companies, but we share a common interest, right? We have to operate safely, environmentally compliant in our community. So we share things. Oftentimes, if one of us sees an issue in our facility with our people, we need to share that with others. So it's a way that we can get ahead of things, share best practices, and stay aligned on being a good operating company in this community. I also want to shout out to, it's important to maintain relationships with this group, and we use that forum to maintain relationships with city employees, elected officials. We have a community advisory council in Texas City, and it's a great forum to maintain those relationships as well.
Great. The next topic is something that impacts everyone in the room, and that's gas prices. So I'd like to ask the refiners on the stage, what impacts gas prices and what are you guys doing?
Sure, I'll start the conversation. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the room that everybody's talking about. I'm going to try to stay away from the political aspects of what's driving gas prices, right? You hear plenty of that. You can turn on Fox or CNN and get two different opinions out there. But if you want to read a good letter, so the AFPM, American Fuels and Petrochemical Manufacturing President, and API, American Petroleum Institute President, drafted a letter to President Biden. You can probably Google it, but they made 7 key points, and I'm going to touch on a few of those points. But the points I want to talk about is supply and demand, right? When it comes down to it, it's really about supply and demand. When you look at the price of gasoline, about 60% of the price of gasoline is crude, the price of crude oil, historically. And there's a lot of things that influence crude oil, but Kevin and I, we essentially buy our crude on the global marketplace, right? It's going to be what it's going to be, and you can look at over the last year and a half, 2 years, right? I can remember when it was $40, it got up to $110, $120 a barrel. That's a huge part of what the gasoline price is. About 17% of that is how we run our refineries and the cost of running our refinery. About 12% is taxes. And then the remainder of that is supply and distribution and marketing and getting the product out there. So that's kind of the big picture breakdown of what the gasoline price is made of. So I talked about crude oil. Valero's a refining company. We don't produce any crude oil. We don't pull anything out the ground. I'm not going to try to talk about what drives all the crude markets, but one of the things that was alluded to earlier is the Ukraine-Russian war. That has had impact on the overall supply chain for crude and helped to drive the price up. The other thing that occurred is just demand for our products. During the 2 years of COVID, inventories in North America exceeded the 5-year averages for jet fuel, for diesel, for gasoline, right? And our margins went to zero. We were essentially losing money for 2 years. Then everybody was pent up, stayed home, wanted to get out. COVID disappeared. What happened? People got on the road, started driving. And actually during that period, on the diesel side, because there was such a demand for transportation of goods and things of that sort, actually diesel demand we see some increases in diesel demand, but because of the drop in jet fuel, all of that material ended up in diesel, and it increased those inventories as well. But as we moved into, people started traveling, starting to get out, get in their cars, go across the United States, burn gasoline in their trucks and SUVs, started pulling that inventory down, right? Then next thing is we freed up the ability to fly, jet fuel, demand went back up, traveling went back up, and now we've pulled our 5-year averages below the 5-year lows. So it's a supply and demand impact, right? During the times that it was above the 5-year highs, we had low margins, didn't make any money. Right now we're having record profits on the product side. That's really what's driven the big product side. So I don't know if, Kevin, you want to talk a little bit about refining capacity and around that, because that's another component of it.
Yeah, so when Corey's talking about supply and demand, I do want to mention the demand side of things. I'll share with you the same thing I just videotaped a few hours ago as a message to my team. Typically, refineries, in my 30 years of experience, do not like hot weather. And if you all have noticed a little bit, it's been a little warm. And that usually impacts refineries in a negative way. I am very proud to sit here today and tell you the GBR facility is running at capacity. So on the demand side of things, or on the supply side of things, we are making all the fuel that we possibly can, minus all the rhetoric that you might hear. And I look at all the refineries across Marathon every morning, and we're all running at capacity. We are doing everything we can to supply this demand. And I'll give a shout out to our employees at GBR. You don't run a refinery wide open at full capacity in the middle of summer, especially with the heat, without a lot of attention to detail. Our team, we've been focused on increasing the reliability of this facility for the last couple of years, and it's really coming to show itself. Because a couple of years ago, we would not be able to achieve the rates we're at without everybody focusing on the tasks they do, taking care of that place, making it a safer, environmentally friendly, but ultimately more efficient and capable refinery. So I don't know of any refinery in the U.S. that is not running at capacity right now to meet that demand.
Absolutely. As I think also in that letter, they'll talk about that we're running at 94% of capacity across the North American circuit. And I mean, typically 90% is like a high watermark, right? So all refineries are out there. We use the term within the Texas City refinery of capturing the margin. When the margin's there available, we want to be able to capture that margin. And all the refineries are doing their best, running as reliably as they can and trying to extract as much as they can out of their assets because of the margin. So I guarantee you we're doing our parts to produce what we can out of the assets that we have. Just the other thing that has happened, a lot of refining capacity has come offline and been shut down. And over half of that capacity is actually in the process of being converted to renewable fuels capacity, right? So although there's a line of refining capacity idle, it's not like we can go back out there and start it up. It's in the process of being converted in the middle of projects to produce fuels down the road, but it's for renewable fuels that are being driven by regulations and different types of things.
So will gas prices go down after this summer? If you had a crystal ball.
I hope not.
We will have time for some questions, so fill out that card on your table if you have a question and raise your hand and the staff will pick it up. Otherwise, I'll give you about 10 minutes of free time, okay? So let's go to one question that I'll just start with Andy. What are you most proud of?
Yeah, so that's easy for me to answer. Kind of what we started off with, hands down, I'm most proud of our team at Eastman and the people that have composed that team. The last 2.5 years, we've had high turnover. We've hired some great folks, and our team has showed great flexibility, great adaptability to be successful. And we've seen that in many ways. We see that in, we've reached many records, production records, reliability records. We've met our financial targets in a very difficult time, and it was only possible for the people that we have. So that's an easy one for me. If I may, I also want to, these guys aren't going to like me, they're the refiners up here, but if you don't like high gas prices, come check out Eastman. We're putting in electric vehicle chargers for free for our employees. So I got to put a plug in. These guys aren't going to like it, but come see me at Eastman. I'm your guy. Don't have to pay for gas anymore.
Yeah, so it's very easy for me to answer the question what I'm proud of. I've been here for 4 years. It's been an evolution since Marathon bought the larger site and we brought these two things together. I'm proud of the people. We've brought this team together, and it hasn't always been an easy road. It's been some ups and downs and some struggles and some relationship issues, but the culture is changing, and it's evident in the results. We set out 4 years ago to become the flagship refinery of our size in the U.S., and we are well on that path. In fact, we're probably going to reach the metrics we set ourselves accountable to 2 or 3 years ahead of what we thought we could do, because we have an amazing team here that really, when the chips are down, Winter Storm Uri, power outages, unplanned issues, hurricanes, this team pulls together in a way I've not seen done at any other plant, and we can accomplish anything. And bringing a $1.6 billion project in is an amazing feat by itself. And it's just feat after feat after feat. Our workforce answers the challenge.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo both what was just said. It's really our people. I mean, going through everything that we've all went through, especially with the power outages, the freeze, a lot of the different challenges that we've seen just here recently over the last 3 years that I've been back in this area. And it's really also just the support of the community too. Really proud of the support we've gotten from the community during a lot of these different outages and different things that we've had to experience. But then most recently, with the attrition, name change here from oil tanking at Vario, company strategy has changed. Really just the resilience of our employees and being able to hang in there and keep the business running. We had zero impacts through COVID. We had zero impacts through the freeze. And so we've experienced a lot of challenges, but we've been able to change gears and keep things moving in the right direction. So again, I think our employees with the added benefit of the community is something I'm very proud to be a part of, not only the community, but this company in this area.
Maybe a little bit different. If I think about kind of what I'm proud of representing Air Products and GCA, it's creating and building something new. So if I look at the plant here, it's the first greenfield build in Texas City in a long, long while. It's around $1 billion worth of assets, and I have a labor bill that is probably $1 million a year. We'll pay to the people that work at the plant. That's $1 million that goes into the community. That's what keeps the kind of shops open. It keeps the gas stations open. And it keeps a community growing and thriving. And I think just personally, that gives me a real sense of accomplishment and pride that we've built something new here, and that we can create jobs for people, and the jobs we create will flow money back into the community that keeps the community going.
Yeah, just kind of pile on what everybody else has said. It's got to be the Ashland team at the Texas City plant. The last 2 years have been extremely challenging. COVID, freezes, power outages, and the team has just ride around all that. And there's been some just downright Herculean efforts to get the plant back and running, up and running at times. So the resilience of the team has been incredible. We got a great group at the site. We work really hard, but we also try to have a good time with what we do at the same time. So appreciate you guys.
So I'll talk a little bit about Valero as a whole. Although I am proud of the Texas City team and what they've done over the last 3 years while I've been transitioning into the plant manager position. Coming through COVID, handling that whole situation, having this high margin environment, keeping the refinery running at a high rate. They've done an outstanding job. And it's despite me changing leadership. It's a testament to the team that's out there. A little bit about Valero, and this book, kind of dovetails with what we talked about coming into this industry and why there are great jobs in this industry. One of the things I'm proud about Valero is we don't pigeonhole people. We don't take people and say, hey, because you are this, that, or the other, you have an upward ceiling. We have 14 refineries, and we've had 5 plant managers that have come out of either the craft ranks or the operator ranks. They are not engineers. You heard all of these people sitting up here are engineers. And, you know, what makes me proud about that is we look at people through a different lens, and we look for people who, through what skills do you bring to the table and what kind of leadership do you have? And we allow people to get to their greatest potential if they want to put an effort towards it. So, you know, that's an easy selling point for me when I have new hires coming in, because I can tell a pipe fitter, a boiler maker, a machinist, an I&E tech, a process operator, that you have the opportunity to sit in my chair and run this plant, right? And we have 4 examples or 5 examples within our facility in the last 20 years that have done that. So, once again, I just encourage everyone to say these are great jobs at these facilities, you know, that make a great living for not only the people that work at the plants, but the greater industry that supports it out here in the community.
Thank you. Join me in thanking all our panelists. Question about, is there an internal effort at local plants to use local vendors? What's your vendor process, and how do you look at local vendors?
Maybe I'll start this one as we are setting up the facility here. It's a mix. We have a large presence in the Houston area, LaPorte, Baytown, and now here at Texas City, and we leverage off our existing base. So it's a mix of certain services we contract directly from companies in Texas City. The rest we typically leverage off of our agreements that we have set up to support our existing sites. Things like scaffolding, right? We have a global contract with a particular provider, and so we'll leverage that contractor down here. That contractor has a yard down in Texas City, and so that'll get staffed out of Texas City.
Yeah, and I'll just say for us, you know, unlike some of these guys, they have, you know, the global procurement policies that they're kind of handcuffed to. But for us at Avario, we've been very privileged to have some leverage to be able to use a lot of our local vendors. And strategically, when we started looking at a lot of our sustaining and growth projects, we really do try to reach out. One that comes to mind is PileLink here locally here in Texas City. We use them to install a bunch of piles for a new tank and some docks. So we really do make a valiant effort to try to incorporate local groups, local businesses here, and a lot of what we do, because we have that flexibility where I think some of these guys are have a little less than that. But so yeah, if there's an opportunity, we'll be reaching out for sure.
I was just gonna, can you hear me? Hello.
Mike's on.
No, all right. I was just gonna say, thank you, Amy. I was just gonna say for us, it's kind of a split. We use a lot of local vendors, and then as you mentioned, we're a global company. We have 43 sites around the world, so we also have some larger corporate contracts that cover, you know, a lot of those global operations.
Thank you. Obviously, we have a lot of good local vendors, right? But acknowledging many of us are global companies, we have corporate contracts, but I will acknowledge our local vendors are great. It's more personally driven relationships, oftentimes better service, but it is a blend in how we operate our facilities.
I'm gonna take us down a little different path, because I think the question was really geared towards the contractors, the mechanical work, the big work inside the plant. But I want to also point out that, you know, we couldn't do anything we're talking about up here without this community around us, with the network of hotels, the restaurants, all the things many of you are here providing for us. You might not think it's direct, but you can't bring 7,000 people into a site like GBR without a whole lot of support. And that's a broader network of vendors I'm thinking of that appreciate what people do.
And I'll just put in a plug for the industrial trade show. There are breakout sessions, and your procurement managers have sessions there, so that's a great opportunity, the trade show, to meet procurement managers, learn how how your procurement processes work. So we talked earlier about the Texas City ISD Industrial Trade Center and the P-TECH program at College of the Mainland. This question is, are the individual plants committed to supporting local talent development through programs like this? Tell us about your involvement with those programs and how it could be possibly stronger.
Tell you one thing I'm very proud of, and it just hit the front page of the paper not too long ago, and it's been announced a couple times. But we firmly believe we need to develop local talent, starting at the middle school and higher ranges. And I'll take the opportunity to tell you we just made $1 million grant to create a new robotics center here for Texas City-La Marque. And we specifically did that by engaging the leadership across the TCISD and the city leadership, and what does this community need? Where can our next value add be? And I think developing STEM, especially in the younger folks, and getting them prepared for these jobs we're talking about is a great way to build the community.
I'll add something too. I think Corey mentioned the pressure our industry gets. I think we need to start planting seeds sooner in our education systems. Partnering with our colleges and graduating seniors is excellent, but we need to go back even further. One of the things we have an upcoming event at Eastman, it's Bring Your Child to Work Day, right? It's something simple, something small, but it gets those kids at a young age and sees that opportunity, gets them interested in our industry, sets the right message of what we do and how we do it responsibly. So we really need to start sooner in our education systems.
I was going to say as well, Ashland, we announced a global initiative about 6 months ago to support STEM locally in the communities in which we operate. And because of that, we've gotten some funding for some different things, and some of it we're still trying to figure out. But we gave a couple STEM scholarships away a couple months ago to some deserving seniors that were graduating. One at Texas City High School, one at La Marque, and we're going to keep doing that. But we're also looking for other avenues, partnering with the schools and COM, where we can do other things, maybe some industrial trade scholarships and some things like that. So look for more from us on that, but that's some stuff that we're working through now.
Sorry. We talk about money and financing, but, different programs or scholarships, but some of it is, like Andy's saying, is planting seeds early on. So having the opportunity to get our people into the schools, craftsmen to talk, not just schools, but if you have other organizations, that you have youth in those organizations, and you'd like for people from these plants. I know we all have volunteer type councils and things of that sort where we'd love to come out and talk to the kids early on, introduce them to the different opportunities that are out there, talk to people who are working in those fields. I'm also on the Chamber of Commerce, and we had our board meeting a few months back at the high school, Texas City-La Marque technical building, and got to tour that facility. And I mean, I saw classes, but they weren't big enough. They were very small groups. So it tells me that there's an opportunity there to get more people interested into the skilled crafts. And so having that opportunity to bring our skilled laborers in to talk to them about what they do day in and day out, what the jobs are like, what it's like across that fence. Even Mayor Johnson's talked about how do we let people see on the other side of that fence that don't know what's over there, right? So we are open to those opportunities, and we have people that are willing to go and introduce people to what we do and what the jobs are.
So I think if I reflect on this panel up here, traditionally I think it's been viewed as a very male industry. I look at this panel up here, and we're not particularly representative of the audience that we are talking to. And so the jobs we're talking about here, they're available to anyone, whether you're male or female. And that's something that I think we are now looking at. So I have a target at Texas City where 25% of the site has to be female. Right, and so I think it's forced us to recruit a little differently. It's forced us to think a little differently, but it's kind of like environmental regulation. There is a target. I have to hit that target. I have to hit that target in the management ranks, and I have to hit that in the operator ranks as well. And there's no job that is in our site that is impacted by, you know, who someone is and their gender. So these are truly jobs that are available to everyone.
If I can, thank you. Just to add to that a little bit, I think one thing that we're doing with Ashland is we're looking at the local demographics in the area, and what we're trying to kind of do is hire to kind of match the local demographics, right? And, you know, we've looked at that data very closely, and we've seen some areas where we have some gaps and, you know, diversity, and so we're working towards that direction. So.
Thank you. We're out of time, so I'm going to turn it back over to Ron for closing remarks, and thank you all very much for being here today.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, gentlemen. We greatly appreciate you joining us today. It's been very knowledgeable, and we really do appreciate everything you do around the community for us. Thank you very much. This concludes our State of the Industry event. We'd like to just remind everybody that on August 31st, our luncheon for the First Responders Salute will be held here. So thank you, and have a great day.